In my boarding school, for the most part, it was just us. We got to see the boys we had visiting days. So it could be, I think when we first started, it was every Saturday and every Sunday, the boys would come and visit. Way in which we communicated with the boys was through letters, right? We would write these letters.
You literally went from boarding school, all girls in Ghana, to an all girls college in Atlanta.
Once you were a guy and you were my friend, you were my friend, period.
Right. Hello, gentle listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in. You are now listening to Kushae Chronicles. I am your host, Kimba, the Natural Diva. I am so excited to bring you this podcast that focuses on real talk, real women, and real health. Today, I am deliciously proud to bring to you, gentle listeners, a beautiful woman who has an amazing stories of travels and movements internationally from West Africa to America and back again, and discovering who she was as a young person, why the big international move was such a part of who she became, and why West Africa will always be home. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my extreme pleasure to introduce Mansa Patricia Ajare. Thank you so much, Mansa, for being here.
Thank you, Kimba. It's always an honor to speak with you. And so I'm excited about what you have going.
Yes, my love. And so, for those of you who don't know, don't let Mansa fool you. We're actually really, really good friends, and we were college roommates. And so, I know so much about her. But I think her story is exciting, and I can't wait for her to share. All right, so Mansa. First up, we are going to talk about Ghana. So Mansa's from Ghana, and as you guys know, everybody is all about Ghana these days, right? Ghana had the
Mm-hmm.
year of return in 2019 for all African heritage folks of the diaspora to come home and to make Ghana someplace that they can either visit or make their permanent home. And Mansa is from Ghana. So Mansa, talk a little bit about growing up in Ghana, and why you think Ghana has become such a place of excitement for a lot of people of the diaspora.
Well, growing up in Ghana, um, regular life, I thought, when you were growing up in a certain place, you're just used to that place, right? Until you travel. That's why in Ghana, we say travel and see. So pretty much to me, it was regular until you have something to compare it to, right?
Mm,
So Ghana was fun, carefree. I went to boarding school pretty much a lot of my life. So from 12 to
mm,
19, I was in boarding school. It was an all girls school, so I was used to just goofing around with girls and just discovering who I was in a sense.
mm,
So but I think that Ghana has become a place for people to come to, one, because we do have a very, very rich history, right? From,
mm,
from the Cape Coast Castle. And I was born in Cape Coast and I went to school in Cape Coast.
mm.
So Cape Coast has always been part of my story.
Right.
And yeah, Cape Coast has been part of my story. And I think that when I was younger and we went to the Cape Coast Castle, I didn't even understand the
Mm.
value of it, or even the slave trade. We were like, oh, it's such an opportunity for us to go out of school. So we were excited to just go out of school and just be and to go on this tour.
Right.
Believe you, I mean, when they told us stuff, and I did history, when they told us stuff, it went here, it went here. We were just so happy. We just wanted to, because in boarding school, we stayed in school the whole time. So it was an
Mm,
opportunity for us to just go out, not realizing what a historic place it was. So I
mm,
think that Ghana is being intentional about having people recognize its rich history. So sometimes you
mm.
have things, you have it all the time, but you not take advantage of it, but you don't understand the value of what you have. You take it for
Right.
granted. Take it for granted was what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Right.
So
For sure.
so being intentional is us not taking it for granted and sharing our rich history with the world.
Right. I love that. All right. So let's go back. You mentioned boarding school. Now, boarding school is not
Yes.
something that most Americans are familiar with and or used to. There are
Hmm.
those, and for us in the US, I would dare to say that it's typically the upper echelon, typically wealthier people that are exploring
Hmm.
options with boarding school, whether here in the US or sending their children away. But for, I would say, maybe 90% of Americans, that's not even something we would consider. But it seems like in Ghana and a number of most African countries that I'm familiar with, that is the norm. Most people who have the ability to go to school will send their children to boarding school. So, talk a little bit about what that experience was like. You're all girls. Do you get to see the boys? Like, because, I feel like American girls, we're chilling and doing things with boys too young, too fast, but that's because they're there. So, do you get to see the guys in boarding school? And what was that experience like?
Okay. All right. So boarding school, I happen to go to a all girls boarding school, right?
Mm.
But boarding school, we do have co-ed boarding school. So their
Oh.
experience will be a little different from mine, right?
Mm.
But in my boarding school, for the most part, it was just us. We got to see the boys on we had visiting days. So it could be,
Okay.
I think when we first started, it was every Saturday and every Sunday, the boys would come and
Mm.
visit. So we had other schools that had boys and the other boarding schools around. So they could come and visit,
Mm.
and your parents could come and visit, friends could come visit. But we had a specific time where boys could come visit. So
Mm.
that was as much of an interaction as we had with the boys. And when the boys came to visit, the girls were so excited. It was like, okay, this is yes, because it was like,
The boys.
and sometimes you would have siblings that you were siblings, cousins, friends that are, in
Mm.
schools close by, but you don't get to see them. So it was a fun
Right.
opportunity to see them. And it was a fun opportunity to kind of, that was an opportunity for guys to come and see their girlfriends. If they had girlfriends in my
Right.
school, which is Holy Child, they could come and see them then. So we looked forward to the weekends because that was the opportunity for us to have the boys come over.
Mm.
Was it a lot of boys coming over? Not really. You had
Mm.
possibly, a percentage, probably about 10 or 15% coming over. And some
Right.
people will come this week, they may not come the other week. But if they had an interest in Holy Child or in with a student there, they would come more often. So
Mm.
yes,
Okay.
we weren't going to classes with them.
Mm.
Actually, one way in which we communicated with the boys was through letters, right? We would write these letters
Oh, back in the
and we
day,
would
right? We didn't
mail
have
them.
internet.
Yes, we didn't have internet, so back in the day we would write letters to the boys, and so we were more excited to see the mailman at during the week because you were like, oh wow, did I get a letter, did somebody write to me? And that was also
Oh.
kind of our interaction with the outside world, right? So
Right.
letters were the big thing, was always an exciting time. You knew what time mail would come in and everybody would be
Mm.
kind of looking out to see whether they got the letter. And when you got a letter,
Right.
that was like a big deal. You were just happy to communicate with other
Right.
people other than the people you see all the time in school.
Right. I love it. Because you're
Yeah.
there 24 hours. Now, are there day boarding schools in Ghana? Like you could go home and come back and forth, or is it only stay away?
Okay, so the school is the school. So we have the boarding part and then the day part. So even in a boarding school,
Mm.
some people chose to be day students, so you could be.
Okay.
But the
Okay.
norm was that most people wanted to be boarders. So the
Mm.
percentage would probably be 90% boarders and 10% day, just depending
Right.
on the school. But we had more boarders than day students.
Then day
And of
students.
course, I mean, the thing about being a day student was that you were limited because I went away, right? So it was
Mm.
only people who technically lived in the area that could easily be day students.
Oh, that's
Otherwise,
true.
then it means that your parents would have to find a way to have you live with somebody if you were not, from the local area.
Mm, okay. And then are boarding schools the best schools? Like, is that the best option when it comes to education for that age group? Is that why everybody goes or most people go?
At that time, when I was going, that was pretty much the norm. Things have changed since
Mm.
then, and more schools have come up. But boarding schools were basically the
So like the gold
modus
standard, was that
operandi.
like the,
Yes, yes, it
yeah,
was the
okay.
gold standard at the time. But now we have
Mm,
more schools, and so and people have more options, which is good. But yeah, boarding
mm,
schools was, but still, boarding school is still very, very, very popular. Still
right.
um, very much in vogue in Ghana still.
Right. Now, let me say this. So, I feel like I have been like encouraged about the boarding school conversation. Now, it's not going to work out for me. It's too late. My kids are a little bit older now. It's like, oh, well, whatever. I think I missed the boat. But let me tell y'all something. I feel like when I go to Ghana, because Mansa, now as a parent, you sent your children to boarding school also.
Hmm.
I feel
Hmm.
like as a parent, I mean, life is like amazing because you're not having to worry about childcare and the running up and down and the everyday challenges that comes with both being a mom and an employee and or business owner and or all the other things. It's like your children are taken care of, they're fine, and you get to kind of live this life without worrying about them every single second of the day. I just feel like it's why parents in Ghana can have such a less stressed life. Like when I talk about Ghana, I'm thinking about moving to Ghana. Like I feel like that's the soft life for me. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah,
just running up
yeah,
and down,
yeah,
and I gotta cook dinner, and what am
yeah.
I gonna make? And we got 4 hours for homework and dinner and da da da. I'm just like, why are we stressing ourselves? And so, what would you, obviously you sent your kids to boarding school. Would you advise people to do boarding school, even here in the US? Like, and what would be your top reasons to do that? Because to
Yeah.
me, it's the parent
So I
life. The
mean,
parent life. I'm selfish. I'm like, girl, send them kids off, child, so you can live your life. That's me.
yes. So I mean, there are pros and cons of boarding school. You
Mm,
realize that, I find that in the States, the bonding between the kids and the parents is I think it's a lot. You find that parents and kids
mm,
bond because they are with them, and so they kind of develop a better bonding. I think if they are not frustrating you, you're
mm.
probably bonding with them.
They're not
Technically, when
frustrating
we
you.
go,
Wait.
yeah, I know, right? If they're not frustrating you, then you're bonding
Because
with them.
teens are
But
usually getting on your
technically,
god dang nerves. But anyway.
uh-huh. But when you go away to boarding school, like my parents were empty nesters early because by 12 we are
Mm,
going away to boarding school.
that's
So you
true.
also have that thing of when you leave, you come for vacation. But I would say that out of the 12 months in a year, you are away in boarding school for like 9 months, not
Mm,
consecutively, but if you put in holidays and stuff like that, maybe 8 to 4, right? So you spend
mm,
more time in boarding school than you spend with your parents, right?
mm,
So you may find that you like you get along very well with your parents also because you're just there for the vacation. You're very happy to have them, but they're technically not raising you like that. So it's important
true.
that if a boarding school is going to have that much influence on your life, you need to pick a boarding school that is a good one that would
Mm,
actually help you to become same value system as your parents would have, because
right.
technically they're giving their responsibility to the school to help mold and shape you. So you have
Mm,
some values from home, but a lot of it is also coming from the boarding schools as well. So yes, and there are pros and cons of it. I think the pros are that they're empty nesters, all right, but
mm,
if it's a good boarding school, you also pick up, I think, a lot, like, really and truly, I think that some of the things good habits that I picked up were from other people in boarding school. I would look at them and they'd be like, oh my God, they're so neat, they're so organized, so you have
mm.
um, a mesh of different people coming from different upbringings, right?
Yeah.
So it's up to you to choose the good ones and then the bad ones. And then there are people who were also like clueless when they came. But the good thing is that you have the administration helping us to kind of guide us to
Mm,
what we need to do, so that you can pick up some good things. You definitely pick up some good things from others and some not
right.
so good things as well.
Yeah, some of those habits. The girls who's getting all the letters, don't follow them. No, I'm kidding.
Believe me, we all wanted to get letters, so we would be following those girls to be like, "What are you
You'd be
doing
like,
right?"
girl, how you getting 5 letters from all the boys? Like, tell me what to do.
Yes, Kimber, I kid you not, this is exactly what we did. We'd go to
You're like,
them and say,
okay.
"Okay, just show me how to even respond to this letter."
So is it like a fire circle? And you're like, okay, guess what he said? Everyone's sitting around like, what did he say?
So let me tell you one thing. When the letters came, it really
Mm,
depended, right? Let's say you got a
right.
letter from a boy. If the boy was somebody you liked, you will not be sharing that letter with
Mm.
anyone, right? You will probably read the letter and maybe show it to one or two people, just be like, okay, hi, this guy wrote to me. I like him. I kind of feel him. Now, if you don't like him, that letter
Oof.
will be read in class and everybody will be, yes. So that was the
That is
downside of,
embarrassing.
I know. So hopefully they don't know him, or we can scratch out the name. But if he was somebody you didn't like, it's very, very likely that either one, your small circle of friends definitely got to read the letter and had a laugh, or
Oh,
they read
dang.
it in front of the class and people just had a ball.
Okay, so any of the guys that are listening, y'all need to tune in because you have gotten slaughtered and didn't even know it. Like, I need y'all to
Oh, and
do
they
your
knew it. I'm
homework.
sure the guys did the same thing. The guys did the
Oh,
same thing.
oh. Now
Now, if
that's a
they didn't like a
catastrophe.
girl, they'll be like, "Oh my God, this girl is sweating me so much. Look at this letter that she wrote to me," and I'm not even
Look at
feeling
what she
her.
did.
So, believe me, they always say that the girls are the ones who do these things. The boys do the same thing.
Listen, I found that boys talk about their little kiss and tell experiences so much more than girls do. Like, they be out here talking. Don't let them fool you, y'all. They get to there with their boys like, yo, and then she said this, and then her body was like this, and that. They also are talking. I think they talk more. But anyway, we digress. We're not trying to beat up on the boys,
I
but
agree.
you ain't safe, okay? You ain't safe. Not on Kushae Chronicles, you ain't safe. Okay, so thank you for sharing the boarding school experience. I just feel like, most of us will just never know, and we have no idea of like what it's like and what it means to be with one's, gender for the whole time. Okay, so last question for you, because what a lot of people don't know about living in West Africa is that a lot of families who are of a certain, I would say, socioeconomic level also have helpers. We see that phenomenon across the continent of Africa. We see it in the Caribbean. Of course, in the U.S., we doing everything. Child, why? Anyway, do I seem disgruntled? It's fine. Anyway.
But let me tell you why. Because labor is expensive. I mean, that's the
I
reason why.
know.
Labor is so expensive. So if somebody you could afford it if you wanted to. You could have butlers. You know
I
what I mean?
cannot
Like
in this.
you would be paying for it, but you could have a chef, you could have a butler, you could have a nanny, you could have all of that.
Thank
So,
you,
I mean,
Mansa, for
labor
rubbing that
is
in.
relatively expensive, right? Because
Yeah.
we all need the help. Otherwise, it's just life is so stressful if you have to do everything yourself. If you have to
Every
change your light
damn
bulb
thing.
yourself, you have to look after your children all the time yourself,
Oof.
cook and clean.
It's a
That's
lot.
that's
Like,
just
who's
tough.
signing up for
Yeah.
that? Somebody should have said something. I mean, at one point, I had a nanny, and people thought I was like bourgeois 2.0. And I was like, I'm going to need somebody to help because I can't pick up these kids every day. I'm running, I'm traveling, I'm working, I'm trying to start a business. That's when Couche was kind of just lifting off the ground. And I was
Yeah.
like, dear God, send me somebody that will receive this $5. No, it was more than $5, but I felt like it was the best I could do, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
It was like I couldn't afford not to. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah,
it was a
yeah.
sacrifice
Because
for
you
the
knew what
family.
you wanted, right? You knew what you
Right,
wanted, and you knew that, you know, certain things had to be outsourced
right,
in order for
and
you to be successful. Yeah.
right in order to build. So my
So it was
last question is,
absolutely worth the investment.
oh, absolutely. Here we are with Couche now with Couche Chronicles, cheese, and And that nanny really, really helped, with everything that I couldn't do for my kids and the business simultaneously, right? That's the issue. You can't do everything at the same damn time. So you need arms. But my question to you is, because you would have grown up with helpers and people who are around the home that can help cook and can help wash clothes and can help do
Mhm,
chores, do you
mhm.
go to boarding school feeling equipped to do those things for yourself? Because you didn't necessarily have to do those things all the time.
So, well, it depends, right? A lot of our
Mm,
parents would allow us to, or would let us do the work. So even though
mm,
we had the nannies and we had the helpers, we knew that's not for them to do our chores, right? So you would learn how to
mm.
cook even though there was somebody else who cooked, right? So you would learn how to do things. We would wash our clothes, because if we went there we would have to wash our clothes by ourselves. We weren't using the washing machine. We hand washed our clothes.
Right.
And then, so in a way, um some of that equipping came from home, right? But
Okay.
when you got to boarding school, like, there was no one. So if you didn't have that at home, you were about to learn. Like, you would have to wash your plates, you would have to wash your clothes, you would have to
Clothes
make your
by hand, like
bed.
figure out how to do, girl,
Yes,
bye.
yes, yes, yes. And you'd have to sweep. I mean, you would have to just do, because we maintained, I mean, the school, our surroundings. So we didn't
Right.
have cleaners who came to come and clean for us.
Of
We had to
course.
clean. We had people who cooked for us, but for cleaning, laying our beds, washing our clothes, all that was taken care of. Other than
Right.
meals, everything else that had to do with um, the home chores,
Hmm.
we did, other than
You
cooking.
did.
And you had to
Okay,
learn to
gotcha.
balance it with your studies as well.
Oh, that's true. Okay, so yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
boarding school sounds like the jam, but you also got the work. So like you said, there's the pros and the cons, and
yeah,
it's not a whole slumber party. Like to me, it seems like a whole
yeah,
slumber party. Like all my friends were all slumber partying, and then they're like, "Girl, you gotta wash
yeah,
your clothes, do your work,
yeah,
sweep these floors, get your bed together." You know what I mean? I mean, of
yeah,
course, when I went away to college, that was the first time I had gone away from home, and you have to do all
yeah,
those things too, but it wasn't, we certainly had like the machines for the clothes, and so it wasn't as
yeah,
difficult for
yeah,
us to just pop in your
yeah,
clothes and put the quarter. Girl, that's if you had the money. Anyway, I digress. The issue then became, do you have money for wash?
yeah.
So all right, so let's talk about, you literally went from boarding school all girls in Ghana to an all girls college in Atlanta, Spelman
Why, I
College.
don't know. Why, I
I was
don't
gonna
know.
ask you.
My kids were like,
Hello.
what's wrong with you, mom? You know,
Do
why
you
did you
just
do that?
not like the boys at all? Like you're like, I can't stand
I
them. I'm sick of them.
know, I know.
Why
Well, maybe
Spelman?
I'm a, I just,
Are you
I
a
don't
feminist?
know. Maybe in a sense I am, because I guess I'm very comfortable around girls. To me, I didn't think that, oh, it's an all girls college, I can't do it anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
I didn't.
right,
I always say that part of my best life was in Holy Child School. Period.
right.
So,
Mm.
and when I was coming to college and it was all girls, I didn't really think about it that way, that, oh, I'm done with girls, I need to get something different. I guess it was
Sick of
all I
these chicks.
knew.
Right.
Right. Yeah. But I always say that Spelman is different in the sense that
Yeah.
you are in college, right? You have
Mm.
other schools that are in the AU Center,
Mhm.
Atlanta University Center, that were mixed. You had Morehouse included as well. So it didn't
Mhm.
feel like a total all girls non-interaction with boys, right?
Right,
And
right,
again, I even think that even though I was in an all girls school, I don't think that I had a problem relating personally. I didn't have a problem relating with boys.
right.
So I didn't think that I would be handicapped just because I went to an all girls school, and that I wouldn't
Mm.
be able to relate with boys because they were not part of my everyday experience, right? It didn't
Right,
really
right.
matter when, once you were a guy and you were my friend, you were my friend, period. Yeah.
Right. Period. End of story. And I know that you've had
Yeah.
lifelong friends with guys that you grew up
Yeah.
with when you were even smaller. So from 5 to
Yeah.
12, I guess, when you guys were
Yeah.
co-ed. I know
Yeah,
personally of
yeah,
some friends that you've had for lifetimes, and you guys went to
yeah,
school for a few years when you were really, really young, and it's
yeah,
like they've been
yeah,
friends for
yeah,
eons. I'm like, and I believe
yeah.
for me, I think that bond when you're so young and to carry on these friends, I think I think most African countries, especially Ghana, has such beautiful mixed gender relationships. I think it becomes very
Mm,
strained in other countries where gender and sex are confused, right? Like you guys do a great job of
yeah.
saying I have a ton of guy friends. Like here, you're like guy friends with benefits. Like there's assumptions, and a lot of times they spoil it, and that's what it really is. They want it to be, and it's not just
Yeah,
true platonic
yeah,
friendships. And so, why do you
yeah,
think that
yeah,
is? I've
yeah.
always found that
I
fascinating.
mean, I think it's about boundaries, isn't it? So
Mm,
I just even when we're in Atlanta, right? Had a lot of guy friends, but the boundaries were never crossed. So once you don't
mm,
cross that boundaries, right? Then it's easier for you to maintain the friendship for a lifetime. I think the
mm,
challenge comes in when we cross boundaries, right? So
yeah.
then it's like, okay, you date for a little bit, then you go back to being friends, then so if you want to have a you want to maintain your guy friends, I think you should always have those boundaries so that there's no confusion as to yes, you are my friend, and you are friend zoned forever and ever and ever.
Like, don't even ask me, boy.
Yes, don't even ask. But I also find that they always say that look, maybe for the girls, they see it as friendship, but the boys are like, I think it's Steve Harvey who says that, like, they're just friends until there's an opportunity to not be friends, and then they would
To
just
cross.
they would just cross. So either you are
Exactly.
you make sure that that friend zone is uncrossable, because I mean guys from Ghana and guys from the US will be the same anywhere, right? So it's more of just making sure that you friend zone them for life.
Listen, is it me? Am I the drama? I just feel like it's so difficult. I feel like guys will always put their little big toe over the line, and I'm like, damn it, you screwed it up. And once you've crossed that line and you've tried to breach the friendship zone curtain, you stick your damn head through. It's like we can't even go back now because now I know your intentions, and it's not
Yeah.
like you're just being my friend. So I don't know,
Yeah.
child. I've had a difficult time. Okay, me and some other, I'm just asking for a friend, but but I just found it amazing.
Tell your friend that we should keep the boundaries, because that's the only
Okay,
way we can keep our friendship.
okay. Let me call her later. Keep the boundaries, girl.
Okay.
So anyway, all right. So and then funny enough, I know that you come from an all-girls family. So Mansa is one of three daughters. Then she went to boarding school with all women. Then she went to college with all women. And I love it. It's just like, more power to the people as far as the women are concerned. Because I know
I
when
need
I
some
met
more
her,
guy friends, though. I think I've been
no,
around
you
too many
don't.
women.
You got plenty of guy friends. You got more guy friends than I do. I probably got about two or three. And if you ask them
And
honestly,
that's
they're
all you
like,
need.
thanks a lot. I'm feeling very judged. Anyway, moving right along. And then I mean, you're married, I know, and your husband obviously has a ton of guy friends. So you got enough in your universe. You'll be fine. But anyway, all right.
Yes,
So
true.
I know when we got to Spelman, it was so empowering just being with amazing black women who were all smart and intelligent and excited and eager about their futures. But tell me what
Hmm.
the experience was like for you, because I will say that there was a bit of cultural dissonance for me when I got to Spelman. My issue was my family's Jamaican, and I was born and raised in the States, but at home, they spoke patois. We ate Jamaican food. We listened to, reggae dance hall. We knew the Jamaican culture. And then when I walked out the door, I was expected to be American. So I didn't drag my culture with me because there was something about trying to assimilate that was really important to me at that time. No, me can't, but I don't want it. So now everybody's like, "Oh, you're so Jamaican." And I'm like, "I know." And I assimilated and did not appreciate the culture for so long when I was growing up. And it wasn't until I got to Spelman that I began to feel this dissonance of like, there's something missing. I'm not feeling the cultural bonds that I think I wanted in my late
Hmm.
teens and early 20s. And I sought them
Hmm.
out. But what I found was not a huge Caribbean population, but I found a huge West African and actually just a continent of Africa population that I
Mm-hmm.
gravitated towards because I was really
Mm-hmm.
missing the culture. And I know that's how we met, but so there was something missing for me. And I think it was that time that I went through this whole period of self-discovery and like, who do I want to be? Who do I want to present as? And so now I'm Jamaican to the core and everybody knows it. But tell me how it was for you because you left a whole country that was home to come here. And I'm sure if I had some dissonance, you certainly did too.
Absolutely. So I think
Yeah.
what helped me was the fact that I'd been to boarding school. So I'd kind of been independent for a long time.
Yeah.
So coming to the States was never an issue, right? It was like, oh, okay, that's my new life, new country, new place, right?
Mm.
But boy, it was a real cultural shock for me because I'd
Mm.
also, this wasn't even the first time I'd gone out of country, but I guess I'd not
Right.
gone out of country where I was going to study. So it was more of a vacation, which is very different from if you were relocating into a country,
Yes.
right?
And living,
So,
right.
yeah, it was and I honestly always thought that, homesickness was for people who were like, oh, they were so soft. And I didn't think I was one of those. I knew I would be fine anywhere. But
Mm.
that is coming to Spelman in my very, very first year, my very first semester. That is when I realized that homesickness was real. It wasn't just like a
Mm.
concept. I used to think that why are they so homesick? They should just be happy. What's
Now have
homesickness? I
fun. What
thought,
y'all
and I thought,
doing?
and I
Right.
was yeah, I thought it was people who were just like, oh, just really soft and just like pampered children. And I wasn't that. I wasn't
Right.
a pampered child, right? So I was like, oh my gosh, why are they so homesick? Or
Are you
because
just trying to
even
say
in
they're
boarding
weak
school,
ass bitches? They're weak
yeah,
ass bitches.
pampered is
She would never say
pampered is the
that.
word I want to use, right? So when I came to Spelman and in my first year, it was just very, very, very different. So I have a couple of
Mm.
stories.
Yeah.
The first one was that actually I was used to writing out all my papers, right? So if I had an
Right.
essay due, I would write it on a piece of paper and then submit it.
Mm.
That was the culture in Ghana because we weren't
Right.
using computers then, right? Then I come to Spelman, everything
Typed.
had to be done, had to be typed out, right? And
Mm.
that was huge for me. Even though I'd taken typing at some point my in my life when I was younger, I didn't pursue it. It was just one class, or I think it was
Mm.
one or two classes. So I wasn't and on a typewriter. So I wasn't really used to doing work on the computer, right? So
Right.
then I went ahead and there was a paper due for ADW, right? African
Mm.
Diaspora in the World. And we had to write and write and write for days. So I did this paper. I mean I was kind of writing, it was flowing. I was in the computer lab, I typed it all out and for some reason I hit something and everything disappeared.
I would have died. I would have failed that whole semester.
I'm telling you. And
Ah,
I mean, now knowing what I know, it was probably somewhere it could have been retrieved, but it was gone. I went to
mm.
there was always somebody. What do you call the lady who was at the
Like a
computer
computer
center?
lab. Yeah, it was like
Yeah, they had the
she was like the
computer lab. They had
attendant.
somebody there who to always assist.
Yeah.
So people who are good in computers would have their work study there, and they would come and
Right.
assist. And somebody came and helped her, and she was like, "Nope, she couldn't find it. It was gone." I
Oh.
mean, I think that was it. I lost it.
Oh,
I just
girl.
took all my books, left the computer lab, and cried all the way to my dorm. I
I'm
cried and cried and cried.
sorry.
I mean, it felt like the
Oh,
end of the
sorry.
world. And when I was
No, it was the
crying,
end of the world, literally.
it was the end of the world for me. I think the paper was due like in 2 days or something like that. But knowing that I needed to type it out, and I didn't even write it out. If I'd written it out, I would have I could have retyped it without thinking through. At this point, I can't even remember
Oh, so
what
you,
my points were. I was just kind of flowing, going with the flow at the
as
time.
you were typing, you were flowing. Oh
Yes, yes. So
no.
I'd finished everything, and instead of save as, I hit delete or whatever I hit, everything went away.
Oh, so sorry.
I was so
Oh
frustrated.
Lord.
I cried all the way to my dorm. And then I
Oh my
met
God.
Kiana Wright on the way.
Yes,
She's a Spelman, and she was in my dorm as well. And
I
she asked me
love.
what was wrong, and I was like, I can't even talk. She was like, okay. So I went to my room, and then she came by, and then I told her what the problem was, and I mean, she was very sympathetic to me, but I could
Right.
tell that she couldn't relate to the issue as grave as it was for me, because for me, I was like, I don't know how to type. I spent 6 hours typing this, and now everything is gone. And I think what used to amaze me
Gone.
was seeing everybody type so quickly. I was like, how do they type so fast? They'll be not even be looking at the keyboard. They'll be looking at their paper and just be typing like this. I was like, who does that? I had to be finding the letters on the
The E.
keyboard.
You're
So
like,
I
where is
knew
the
she
E?
couldn't relate to the magnitude of the problem that I had. It was
Oh
so sad.
no. Oh
And
my
then
God.
I
And let me
slept.
just
It's
tell
for me when
you.
I'm sad, I just go to bed. I was like, you know what? This is it. I will deal with the problem in the morning, because at this point I'm not in a space to deal with this problem. So I went
Exactly.
ahead
And let me tell you
and
guys
slept.
something. Mansa is a very spiritual person, as am I. But when I tell you, I guess in that moment she was like, Joy will come in the morning. I'm going to bed. I can't deal with this. Let that be a lesson to everybody. Joy will come in the morning. Now, whether you can
Joy
type or
will come in the
not,
morning. Yes. Joy will come in the morning. Yeah.
you hope
So in
for a
the
new
morning,
typewriter, something.
yes. I mean, now it's small comparatively, but oh my God, I was just in a
Devastated.
place. So that was one. So,
Right.
academically, just getting used to the style in which teaching and learning was done was different for me. I
Right.
think
And let me
also
say
another
this.
big thing was me.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
hold
go
on
ahead.
one second. I don't mean to interrupt you, but let me just say this to the audience. I feel like I'm smart, right? I know I'm smart. Hello. Mansa graduated summa cum laude. I was like, this chick is, she, you would never know. She's the most humble person, and the most just amazing, sweet person. But this chick, this brain of hers is like the computer itself. So don't get it twisted. My girl couldn't find the E's and the W's on the keyboard. But this chick graduated with an almost perfect GPA. So do not, at Spelman College. So do not get it twisted. It just wasn't what she was used to. And I will say this, Mansa, for your own like understanding, we weren't obligated to take typing class. I know I elected to take typing class, but I think it's those types of ambitious kids that end up at Spelman anyway. So you probably just had a whole bunch of ambitious kids who were like, yeah, I'm going to take all the classes because that's kind of who we are as a group anyway, who elected to take
Okay.
typing. But it's not an obligation, it's not a requirement here in the US. So people outside of
Okay.
Spelman probably would have been like, yeah, girl, I know, like, where's the E at? But the rest of us nerdy girls who ended up at Spelman probably did the same thing and took typing.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
wish you would have
Okay.
known
Okay.
that, like, it wasn't because we all had to, it's because we all chose to. And so that's the only reason,
I
because I know I was like,
know. I was
girl.
like, I cannot wait for the day where I could just be ta 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 away.
We're not
And
going
the
to ask
nails
you,
and
are you
everything
there
they'll be
now?
going. I'll be like, how are they managing? Anyway. So that was
Do you,
one.
that was
Then
one.
the
Wait,
other
can you
one
type
was,
now? Do you know how to type now?
oh,
Okay.
way better. Because
You know what the E is.
I'm online. I'm on the computer all day long, and I write
Right,
stories
right.
for a living. I better learn how to type. Right?
Exactly. You're like, I know what the W's are. It's fine. I love it. All right, so what's your
Yes.
other assimilation story,
So
like
the
how you
other
were
one,
managing?
culturally, I think that
Mm,
I was just not, I'd come from a place where I fitted in so well, but
yeah,
somehow I wasn't fitting in the American culture, right? I was like,
right.
and I couldn't put my hand on it, right? And
Mm,
it's more of just cultural, right? Because
yeah. Because we're
just
all black.
how
We're all black, right? And I think that's the assumption. I
yes,
even when I was like, we're all black. And then you realize,
yes,
okay, but black is not this homogenous, identity, right? We're not the
Yes.
same. And
Yes.
even being black, we have to get to a point where you understand that. So I'm sure the poor everybody else is like, y'all ain't all the same. No, and we also don't all look alike.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're all
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
different, even within the
Yeah.
communities. And that's why I think people don't understand.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, um, did I really try to fit in? Maybe a little bit, but I just couldn't.
Mm,
Also, mind you, when I came to Spelman, I was a little bit older than my classmate because I'd already started
true.
university in Ghana and then I
Mm,
transferred to Spelman, but I
right.
transferred still as a freshman, right? So um, everybody was relatively younger than I was. And I thought, oh,
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe it's because they are young, right? But no,
Mm,
not really. I think it was, and I just think that culturally it takes us a little bit of assimilation, just coming from
mm,
a different background to the American background. It's making that effort. But
yep.
also, at the end of the day, you can't be friends with everybody, right? So you just
Right.
need to find your niche of people who understand you and can relate to you, and then your experience changes. And I think for
Mm-hmm.
me, that's what happened. After
Yeah.
my first year, I met you, I met a couple of
Mm-hmm.
people. And so with that, I was able to just feel very much at home and settle
Right.
because really and truly, you don't need to have 10 good friends to settle. And I think that's another
Right.
reason why even sororities are so big at Spelman, because
Mm-hmm.
that's a way for people to truly connect, right?
Yep.
Because uh they have their sorority that helps them to connect, and you find that they tend to be friends for life also. So you have a few people who are
Mm,
friends for life, but you find that those who stayed in sororities also have those friendships for life. This is me speaking as an
yeah.
outsider though, so I can't tell whether that's
Right.
really what happens, but it just seems that people who tend, and I'm just even looking at from our alumni group, people who are
Right.
in sororities or who were in sororities and are still are, tend to be closer friends.
Yeah, they do. They do. And I mean, for me, I was so grateful to have met. So I didn't join the sorority either because I was like, okay, I'm just going to go find my own friends, and I felt like there was this organic connection that I needed. I didn't necessarily want to be affiliated with it because I felt like Spelman for me was the sisterhood. So I didn't necessarily
Yeah,
look for a sisterhood within the sisterhood. I was like,
yeah,
I'm in the
yeah,
sisterhood, but I also want to go
yeah,
find my own connections organically with
yeah,
things that mean a lot to me. And when I met you, I was just like a kid in a candy store. I was like, tell me about Africa. Like, I was so enamored. I'm sure she was like, is this girl gay? I was in her room all the time. And it's funny because her roommate was from New York. And I would knock on the
yeah,
door and was like, hey, is your roommate in? Because I thought maybe I need to get with the New York girls because I grew up in New York. And I was like, maybe that's my tribe. And oftentimes her roommate from New York was never in the room. And I'm like, obviously she's with the other New York girls and I'm clearly not. I don't know where the New York girls are. And I just never ended up connecting with the New York girls like that. But Mansa would be there every now and again if I knocked. And then I was just like, so how are you? Like, what are you doing? Like, literally just barging in and just being all in her business. And the minute she was like, I'm from Ghana, and I was like, where is that? And I just was like, wow. Because to me, and at the time, Africa was such a far off place. Like, I never imagined that I would have gone, even traveled to Africa, much less been back 5, 6 times since, right? Which I have. And I'm just like, everybody's like, dang, you always in Ghana.
yes,
You damn right. And I've been traveling there since what I can say is the 90s, which seems like such an honor. And it is such an honor for me. And it was only because of you. Manta invited me to Ghana. And I was like, Mama, I done made it. I'm going to Africa. And it was such a beautiful thing. But I found friendship with you
yeah,
and other women of the diaspora that were from the continent and some that were from the Caribbean. And that ended up being my little tribe and are still lifetime friends to this day. So, to your
yes,
point, you just
yes,
have
yes.
to
And really,
find
that's what it's
a
about, isn't
niche.
it? Finding those
Yeah.
lifetime friends.
Absolutely. And holding on to them. Now we travel together. We've traveled the world together. You and I traveled the world together even back then. So we became international travel buddies, and it's been beautiful. Don't get me to crying, girl. But it's just has Mansa opened up my whole world. She was the one that encouraged me to do travel abroad, and I was like, really? She's like, girl, let's just go. And I was like,
Yes, yes,
okay.
yes.
I had all of $5. I was like, Mama, I need $5 more. Like, my poor mom was like, girl, stop stressing me out. But
It's a dollar and a dream, isn't it?
exactly. That's all you need. But I would encourage anybody to broaden your scope, right? I feel like we all have this idea of from who you want to date, what height they have to be, and all this other stuff, to like who you think your friendship groups will be. But if you widen that net just a little bit, you will find experiences that you would have never otherwise have been afforded. And I'm so grateful to you. I mean, I've been all over the world with this chick. I don't know what that's about, but from Europe to Africa, Namibia, Ghana, all places, Spain, England, like France, all over the world with this woman, and we got other places to do.
We sure do.
We do, we do. All right, so you find your niche, and then life opens up with you at Spelman. You end up meeting this wonderful man who you marry. You have children in the U.S. You're making this life. You go back for your master's, and so you're creating this life in America. But are you homesick again? How do you get back to Ghana?
I think so, really and truly, you went back to the help system, right? But I think that's one of the reasons why I moved. Because I realized that, three young kids, just having to deal with that was just a lot. So
Yeah,
I decided that that's one of the reasons why I wanted to go back.
right.
And then also, I always think that, Ghana is still very much a blank canvas, right?
Hmm.
Where there's so much to do. So where the States is a lot more advanced, there's a lot to do that you can start here
Hmm.
and have it grow because it's not mainstream, right? It's not
Right.
mainstream. So those were some of the reasons why I looked at, just coming back home. And then, of course, family was also home as well. So that also made it a big, was a big factor in my planning.
Mm, okay. So tell me about the ages of
Yeah.
your children. So they're born here. You've
Yeah.
got a beautiful daughter, two beautiful sons. How old are they when you
Yeah.
say, I'm packing up and we're going home?
Oh, they were 6, 3, and 1.
Girl,
So,
bye.
yes, 6, 3, and 1. You know,
That's a lot.
yeah.
So you've got one baby on the hip, two by the hands, luggage, everything that you own, everything. I mean, did you just give shit away? Like, did you have two bags for everybody? How do you move across the world? Like, literally, you're just like, I don't care. Take this
Oh, well,
fridge, do what you
you do
want.
it. Yeah, you kind of do it in phases, though, right? So
Mm,
first, you kind of go with the kids and just try and settle, but you still have your base there, and then
mm.
you kind of just because it's quite a bit, and then
Yeah,
eventually you ship stuff and you try and figure out how to maneuver all of that.
right, right. And then how did your family receive you? Because I think that some folks I've heard feel like there was this promise of this American dream, and that sometimes when you go back home, people look at you as if either you made it or you didn't, like or the dream failed. Did you feel coming home that you should have had a different, it should have looked different for you, or do you feel like it was what it was, and you wanted to make a new life? How was that for
Absolutely.
you?
I mean, I think for me, I've always run on the thing of, it is what it is, and
Yeah.
every day is an opportunity to do something else and be something different and listen to your intuition and go. So yes, some people
Mhm.
may have a perception of an American dream, and that holds a lot of people back because they feel like, oh, I haven't checked all these boxes. And whether it's anything, whether it's relocation or marriage
Mm.
or career, we put ourselves in sometimes in these. I have to have X, Y, and Z before I can do that. But
Right.
it doesn't always work that way, right? So you
Right.
also have to listen to your intuition, and I feel like I'm here now, right? Now as I am.
Right.
Could things be better in any sense? Obviously, of course they can be.
Yeah.
But I also know that my circumstances now are exactly where I need to be the greater person that I want to be. So I never kind of live in a thing of, oh, I should have, could have kind of environments because it doesn't
Right.
do me any good. I'm like, okay, this is where I am now in my life. What do I
Right.
do next? What are my next steps? What do I, it just it gives you an opportunity to kind of reset
Mm.
because if you keep looking at it as in, oh, I didn't do X or I didn't do Y, then you were thinking you failed, and so you're not able to move forward either. You get what I
Right.
mean? Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is where I am now. Everyone we could do, like, you could have a 4.0 GPA, and you could have been a 4.0 GPA with a martial arts degree. You know what I mean? So you could have anything. You could you could yearn for more, but I feel like wherever
Mm.
you are, you should kind of appreciate your journey and push through the more that you yearn for, period.
Right.
So yeah,
No, it's
so for
amazing.
some people, they should have had the house or the career or the
The
before
million
they make
dollars
the
in the
move.
bank. Right.
Yes, 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 yes. So,
Mm.
but my family was very receptive. I mean, they were happy for me to be home. So it wasn't a matter of, do you have $1 million in the bank, or do you have two houses, or do you have whatever? Because obviously, in America, financially, right, you're likely to make more money than the average person. If we're looking at GDPs, even just looking at
Right.
GDPs, right, and we're looking
Right.
at those averages, obviously, in America has way more, in terms of GDP than Ghana does. So,
Right.
in that sense, you are expected to be more successful financially. But I
Right.
think that success should always be holistic, right? And you
Hmm.
should always also strive for more. That doesn't mean rest on your laurels. You should always strive for more, because that's how the human spirit is built, anyway, isn't it? That we
Right.
always strive to do better than we've done,
Than where we are. No, I appreciate that
than where we are.
because there are people who stay stuck. And I don't care if you're trying to buy a new house or go move to another country, but they stay stuck in this. I needed to have been at this place at this time. And because they stay stuck in, I have to get there, give me 5 more years, they never move. They never try something different. They never pivot. They never take a chance on themselves. And even becoming an entrepreneur for me, it was like I'm leaving amazing six-figure jobs to start with nothing, right? And it's the only difference between myself and somebody else is that they're afraid. It's fear, right? And they don't
Yeah,
have the
yeah.
courage that it takes to sustain the dream. You could start tomorrow, but they get scared and double back, right? And the rest of us crazy ass people who want to have a business keep riding, and it slaps you, it punches you in the gut, it kicks you in the back, it punches you in the head, but we're just like, this is the ride, so it is what it is. Punch me, kick
And
me,
it makes
slap
you
me.
grow.
It does. But it
Yeah.
also, years from now, right? Like Kushae is at this juncture 7 years old. Your kids, your baby girl who was at 6 is now 21. So it's like, hello, 15 years later, this life that you're enjoying would never have been if you weren't courageous enough to say, I'm doing something different. This is not what I want anymore. This is no longer serving me, and I have to move. So I love that you shared that because people need to know when you are at a point where things no longer serve you, that's the right time to go. It's not about how much you have in the bank. It's not about what dreams you were able to shatter, blah, blah. If it no longer serves you, it's time to move and hopefully in a better direction. So I think that's the overall message today, my love. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, ladies and gentlemen, although Mansa and I were like, okay, we're just going to chit chat, I enjoyed this conversation. Like, I've known you forever, but just understanding your world before I ever knew you existed to knowing who you are and the beautiful mom and wife and friend and sister and aunt that you are. It's just the journey has been amazing. So, any last thoughts for the listeners before we jump into Kushae catastrophe, Jade? We'll talk about that in a second. But what would your advice be to folks who are looking to move to Ghana? Because you are such an ambassador for Ghana. I love it. Every time I go, you're like, bring your friends, come, come.
Yeah,
People who are looking to
yeah.
move to Ghana, what would your advice be?
My advice would be start the process from somewhere, right? You never know which door would open up once you start the process. So as to be open and start the process. And I always say, and you said it, about being spiritual. He who brought you this far will open up the rest of the way. But at least if you have that yearning in your heart, follow through the process and you never know where it would lead you to. You never know what connections you would meet along the way to put you where you want to be. So take the first step. I think that would be
Right,
my first thing. Take the first step. Look at different options. Do your research, but take a step in a
right.
direction, and then because you're also taking a step, you're also looking for opportunities. So when opportunities come,
Mm,
you'll be able to recognize it, right?
right,
You'll be able to
right.
recognize it and to take the next step and to take the next step. So
Absolutely. You and Mansa
that's
might
my
just be neighbors in Ghana. She lives in Accra. And if you're nice to me, then I'll introduce you to her and then she can show you around. But, that's just if. But anyway, all right, ladies and gentlemen. So listen, we are about to enter our Couche Catastrophe segment. Now, there's some ladies who are more demure, like Mansa, and, don't
very
necessarily have.
demure. Miss Goody Two Shoes. I already told you that.
So for those of our
But you can ask
demure.
me a question and I'll.
Yes, I'm going to, encourage you to answer this question. So, couche catastrophes, we feel like if you have a couche, you have a story. Something has always gone on in your life as you've explored, sexuality and intimacy. But this, I think, is for some of our ladies who have their moms still in their lives. The question then would be, what topic would you never want to discuss with your mother as it relates to sexuality and intimacy? And her mother better not be listening. So listen, we all
So
grow,
I
we all have done all the things from the root to the toot. What would you never be comfortable with? Not that you wouldn't discuss it, but what would you not be comfortable with speaking with your mom about?
I think she would be rather not comfortable speaking with me about.
Like,
I'm
okay,
pretty
so
sure.
she'd be like,
So
why are you asking me that?
yes, because I think in their school of thought, Chronicles are not to be chronicled in any environment, right? So she would be uncomfortable, I think,
Mm,
talking about it, right?
right.
But I've always kind of, you know, I think maybe when I was married, right? And um, I always used to think that um, old people didn't have sex, period.
Mm,
Then
right.
and old when I was 20, I meant old being 45, right? Because when
You
you're
don't
20,
have.
25, 45-year and 50-year-old seem old to you. They're a
Yes, it's
good
like an eternity.
20 years older than you, right?
Right.
So I used to always think that, oh wow, by age 45, I would have retired.
The cliche would have retired. Well, I would dare to say that you just celebrated your 50th birthday, and I don't think you've retired your couche. So perhaps The line has moved, darling.
I think the line has moved. The line has definitely moved. So now I'm wondering where the line is.
I
Is it
don't think there is a
65? Is it
line.
75? Is it 85? That's one question that I really wish I could get a response to. And I don't know who is going to give me that response, whether it's from a
Me, let me help you. Let me help you. Not
okay,
that I'm
go
that
ahead.
age, but you're like, ooh, let's
Okay,
get into
tell me
it.
your from what you
Well,
heard, yeah.
exactly. I will share that there is a retirement community in Middle Florida. I'm not going to name any names. People are very familiar with it if you live here in Florida. And the biggest issue is the rise of STDs. Now, the
And
retirement
what's the
community,
average age?
the
Because
average
retirement
age
community
is
will be 55.
75.
No
75.
kidding.
Average, which
Male
means there's
and female.
male and female. Because guess what? Outside of shuffleboard and cards, what else is there to do? Okay. So there is a very clear statistic and data that shows that there is a rise of STD in this very popular and very populated retirement community. And so I will venture to say that it never stops. Okay? Yes. And now that there are blue pills and green pills and yellow pills or whatever the freaking color they got now, it's making it worse, is what I'm hearing from physician friends of mine, that the men now at 80, 85, who otherwise would not be able to perform, are performing. And so poor Marjorie and Beth Ann back there are willing to, entertain.
Wow. It
So
would
I
be
don't think it ever
interesting though
ends.
to find out whether it's what's the breakdown of men versus women though, right?
Right, that's okay. So who's more active at what age? I think women can go
Yeah.
for years and years and years without anything, right? Like we get to a point where like we're menopausal and then we're like, I don't care, I don't need it. But men, I've heard physiologically they have to release. And so whether
Yes,
it's
yes.
party of one or
Yeah.
party of two or more, it's something they have to do. And so we're like, "Ooh, John, take care of your business." But I think that women could go for ages. I know women who are older in age who have gone many, many years without a partner and they're a little crabby, but they seem very okay. So maybe
No, 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 Kimber, you're assuming that they don't have a partner. They may not have a partner that you know of.
Right, because here's the deal. No, but I have 65, 70-year-old friends. Like my auntie friends, I love them to pieces, and they're definitely active. So older than that, so I know that age range is still active. Older than that, I don't have close people that would be totally honest with me. So anybody who's 75 and older, holla at your girl. No judgment. Just saying. You did it before. It's not like you can't do it. So yeah, I
Yes.
think so. Before we wrap up, thank you so much for joining us with for Kushae Chronicles and the exciting Kushae catastrophe that we just discussed. But before we let you go, Mansa, I want you to share with the listeners what you're up to now that you've moved back to Ghana, you've established your own business. Tell us a little bit about your business and potentially where we can find you and how we can support what you're doing.
Okay. All right. So I'm a magazine producer, and actually, I'm not just in Ghana. I'm in Ghana and the States as well, right? That's
Yes.
the beauty of having lived in the States. So the States is actually my second home too, and
Mm,
Ghana is. And as a magazine producer, what I do is I celebrate people on their milestone birthday by writing their stories and sharing their stories with the world. So as people turn different milestone ages, we want to make sure that we capture their stories because after all, I mean, our stories could inspire others, right? We could also use it
mm,
as a marketing tool if you're in a business to share what you do and your life story. People like relatable stories. People
yeah.
like to know where people came from, what they do. And so it's a fun way of just showcasing your life, celebrating yourself, and putting down a legacy, not just for you, but for generations after you. I wish I knew, I heard so many stories about my grandfather, but I don't have anything in print. And so it
Hmm.
would be great if I had it in print and something that he had written in his own words to see what he felt and how he lived his life in the period that he did. So that's
Yes.
what we do with the birthday journal. It's a celebration of your life through pictures and through stories. which are meant to be real and inspire and to, help you to market yourself or your business.
I love you. And I love you and I love that.
Yeah.
I have seen the birthday journal in action. It is a beautifully published journal. You get your picture on the cover. It's all about you. And I think the whole idea, ladies and gentlemen, is that you don't have to be a celebrity to be celebrated, right? You don't need to have
Absolutely.
reached a certain point. And I love that caption for you. You got to use that. You don't have to be a celebrity to be celebrated. You don't
Yeah.
have to have reached certain, I don't know, echelons of whatever public opinion to feel like you are worthy of celebration. Your friends, your family, your legacy you leave behind. How beautiful would it have been for generations later to be like, this was my amazing grandmother. Her name was Kimba, and she had this podcast, and our stories die with us oftentimes, and that's a shame.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
literally are out here working our asses off, and then for what, right? That our legacies only live to forget. So we want them to live to remember who we are, the sacrifices that we made, and why they're probably the amazing people that they are, because they're leaning on a lot of the things that we've built within ourselves. So they're like, why am I so ambitious? Why? Well, you get that from your mama and your mama's mama, and it's beautiful to know that. So I encourage you all. How can the folks reach you? Tell me, how do they find the birthday journal? And if they're looking to celebrate their 40th, 45th, 50th birthday, how do they get a birthday journal of their own?
Okay. So they can visit us on our website, which is mybirthdayjournal.com,
Mhm.
or on Instagram and Facebook, it's thebirthdayjournal.mag, M-A-G. So
Okay.
thebirthdayjournal.mag, and then online we're mybirthdayjournal.com.
Okay,
So if
perfect.
you
So
go
my
there, you
birthday
would see
journal.
all the information about the birthday journal and how you can contact us. But we're
I love
definitely
it.
online, and um, yeah,
Yeah. And let me tell you guys something. I've witnessed folks who do birthday journal features and they do a photo shoot. They can recommend you getting all glammed up because who wants to look busted on their birthday? Nobody. So you get glammed, you're cover. It's like cover girl world. You know what I'm saying? You cover girl. You ain't just
yeah,
like give me a headshot from your phone. No, baby. We got professional photographers that'll get this thing done and you look amazing. And then of course you can submit pictures from your childhood, from your adolescence, from your teens, your tweens, and all the things. So there's this story, there's this journaling of who you are and why. So it's a beautiful, beautiful piece, and it pays homage to you and the gifts that you were given, and hopefully that you can share with everybody else, whether you're here or not.
yeah,
So thank you so much,
yeah,
Mansa, for dedicating part of your life story to chronicling others, which is why I thought you were such a great fit for Kushae Chronicles. So you are a chronicler.
Thank you, thank you,
Thank you,
thank
my
you, and
love.
thank you so much, for always being very, very supportive of the birthday journal. It's been great, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely,
Thank
my love,
you.
anytime. So hang on with me. We're just going to
Okay,
tell listeners bye again. Take care, everyone.
okay,
Thank you so much for
all
tuning
right
in
then.
to Couche Chronicles, and we'll see you next time. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is the Couche catastrophe. These STDs and retirement communities, y'all got to do better. And honestly, I feel like they're probably like, listen, I'm 89. So if I go out happy, okay, like STD, bring it. Like chlamydia, gonorrhea, give me three. I don't think they care. They've lived a long life. So kudos to them. You
They
know what I
sure
mean?
have. Yes,
They
they
deserve it. Go
have.
happy if you have to. So, Mansa, I'm going to encourage you to hang on the line with me, but we're going to say goodbye to our audience. Gentle listeners, thank you
Okay.
so much for joining us for another episode of Couche Chronicles, where we focus on real talk, real women, real health. We'll see you next time. Take care. Ciao. Thank you, Mansa.
Thank you too, Kimba. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, my love.